The new Lord Pack and Wood Elf update announcement was certainly unexpected, but it's a welcome surprise. This update is near and dear to my heart because I played mostly Wood Elves in the tabletop game back in the days of 4th edition. But their implementation in Total Warhammer sorely needs a rework, and has for a good long while. From the blog post, we know that the Lord Pack content will take on a tiered structure for the first time, depending on what other Total Warhammer content you own, culminating with a bonus Wood Elf Lord for owners of Game 1 and its original Wood Elf race pack. Now, initially I was absolutely certain that the new Vortex Lord was going to be Ariel, because among the remaining Wood Elf characters who are not in the game, she by far has the most in-depth lore, and she's by far the most important character. However, after taking another look at this infographic, I think that there's probably a better chance that she ends up as the free Lord for people who own Game 1 and the original Wood Elf race pack. And it's all based on the idea that if you own all three of these, not only do you get the new Lord, according to this infographic, you get new units, unit variants, a hero, and spell lores. So what that tells me is that most likely the new spell lore is probably going to be the lore of Athel Loren, which, whether or not it's a good spell lore remains to be seen, but it did exist, I believe, in the 6th edition Wood Elf Army book, and it would, I guess, make the Wood Elves a little bit more unique, magically speaking. Ariel is a phenomenally powerful spellcaster, so she will have access, certainly I would think, to high magic, probably dark magic, and this new Athel Loren spell lore. But on top of that, the fact that you're getting new units and unit variants tells me that whoever is going onto the Vortex map is going to have a limited roster, probably sort of similar to how Marcus Wolfhart had a somewhat limited roster. I'm thinking in this case, it'll probably be somebody who has either elves only or who will have forest spirits only, at least mostly. Sort of how the Amber mechanic divides Durthu and Orion now, but I think we're going to be getting away from that. At least I hope we're going to be getting away from that with those two, and really in general with the Wood Elf Lords once the rework goes through. But why would I think that Ariel would be the Lord to choose for the Vortex campaign in the first place? Well, if you're unfamiliar with her, Ariel is the Mage Queen of Athel Loren. She rules over the forest with Orion. She's a demigod, the avatar of Isha, and one of the most powerful spellcasters in the entire Warhammer universe. When battle's afoot, she transforms, nearly doubling in height and sprouting giant moth-like wings emblazoned with the so-called eyes of Isha. And what makes her an interesting pick for traveling to the New World is that there was a time in the lore where Ariel had a major beef with Morathi. You see, Ariel's sister, Alisara, was once the wife of Malekith. She had traveled to Athel Loren shortly before Malekith's rebellion, but eventually she felt guilty about his actions and wanted to return to him, in an effort to calm him, and I assume to prevent further elven bloodshed. However, Morathi found out about her plan to return, and like a good mother, indirectly murdered Alisara by manipulating a High Elf Lord from Illyrian. Alisara never made it past Bretonia's shores, though she managed to break Morathi's enchantment before she died. The High Elf Lord killed himself shortly after committing the deed. Ariel was understandably driven to discover who had murdered her sister, but even her magic wasn't enough. Morathi had made certain to cover her tracks. As a result, Ariel began delving into dark, forbidden magic. She knew elves from Illyrian were responsible, so she used her powers to heal a portion of the world roots, which Orion used to invade Illyrian. Ultimately, the High Elves didn't put up much of a fight, since Orion was an avatar of Kurnos, who many in Illyrian revered. Finally, however, Ariel was able to overcome Morathi's enchantments, and all was laid bare. It's at this point in the lore that I think the Vortex campaign will take place, or possibly just before, during the invasion of Illyrian. While I thought initially that Ariel would go to the New World herself to avenge her sister, as she does in the lore, I think that perhaps there's a better chance she sends somebody else in her stead. Now, who could this be? I'm not sure. Certainly not Draika, because she would never do it, because she hates all Wood Elves as I understand it. I think a possibility could be somebody kind of boring, like Araloth, I think his name is. He's kind of a basic Glade Lord who's been chosen by the gods to, I guess, be better than most Glade Lords. Yeah, he's also got a hawk that he uses, so I don't know. I guess that's a little bit interesting, but I think we can do better for a Lord pack. Now, technically, in the lore, the Sisters of Twilight didn't actually show up until after this beef with Morathi. Essentially, Ariel had hidden herself away due to some maybe not so good things that she had done, and these sisters appeared sometime after that. But given that the timeline is kind of wishy-washy, I think, in Total Warhammer to begin with, perhaps these sisters are made contemporaries with Ariel, and Ariel sends them to exact her vengeance instead. I can imagine them leading a largely elf-based army to either perhaps heal the world roots, or maybe track down magical artifacts to shatter Morathi's defenses, with the ultimate goal of defeating Morathi in some kind of a, climactic special battle at the end of the campaign. There are a ton of other hero-type characters that could be made into the Lords, particularly from the 4th edition rulebook. I don't know that most of them are terribly likely. There's everything from Beastmasters to a Battle Standard Bearer to a Master Scout, etc. There is one guy named Thalandor who fought against the Vampire Counts and actually could be a character or a Lord, and he rode on a special black Great Eagle called Gwandor. I mean, maybe that's a guy that makes it in, but I sort of would be surprised. I think the Sisters of Twilight are a much cooler option, and I think that really, in the tabletop rules, it seems like they fight together anyway. So I think that probably, they'll just do the Skarsnik and Gobla route and just make them one unit since, they're basically inseparable to begin with. There is another option, I guess. Maybe Nyeth the Prophetess could make it in if we go along this idea that maybe she's sent there to divine and, who is responsible for the murder of Valasaram. It's a bit of a long shot, I think. She's not a particularly major character, but, it's fitting with the idea that I have. But no matter who it is, I do think it's probably going to revolve around this time in the lore where Ariel was after Morathi. As for a start location, whoever the new character may be, I think that an obvious choice might be Orion's camp down in, I guess, the Southlands or whatever this area is called. However, it is right next to Prince Imric's Vortex starting location, which, while he was a free LC Lord, he's literally right next to him. So I think that makes it a bit less likely that we get somebody to start here, at least in the Vortex campaign. I think it might be more interesting if there was a Wood Elf faction that maybe you could ally with or confederate, rather than you being the only Wood Elf faction on the entire map. But it is possible that they could start here. It is, like I said, kind of an obvious choice. And you might start with a non-aggression pact with Imric as well. Now, on top of that, there is a lot of room if we go way out to the northwest section of the map. There's quite a bit of room out here for a new Lord, although I'm not sure the world routes reach quite that far. At least not to the northwestern corner, but either way, we could see somebody occupying somewhere in this snowy mountainous region, but it is awfully close to Nagarond, for starters. And then on top of that, if the ultimate goal is to defeat Morathi of some kind, or in some way rather, we can't start too close to her on the Vortex map to begin with. Wouldn't really make much sense, because don't forget, the Wood Elves have an underway stance, so they can just hop through all these mountains here and, reach Morathi in just a few turns. And with their ranged superiority, they might even be able to just take the ancient city of Quintex, by turn 5 or 6. So, yeah, I don't know about this area, at least not for the Wood Elves. There is a fair amount of room actually over here. Not here. No, farther south. Sort of on the outskirts of the Lustria Dome here. So we've got like Teclis starting down on these islands, but then most of the other lords start, you know, in the mainland itself, or on the other side of it. So there's a lot of space here, especially, you know, when you consider adding like new regions to the map, which happens all the time in these kinds of updates. You know, I could see certainly somebody starting down here on these islands, or maybe over in this section of the jungle over here. So that might be an interesting place to start. I don't know if there's any real lore reason for any of these starting positions aside from maybe Orion's camp. Aside from that, there is also, you know, being that Ariel attacked, or well, I guess Ariel had Orion attack Illyrian. It's possible maybe the new Lord starts inside of Ulthuan, either in a new region or owning some of Illyrian's property here. This seems a bit less likely because I think that's going to end with the AI faction getting rolled every time you're not playing as them. But another option could be maybe starting out just outside in maybe one of the Scourge of Cain's settlements here, Tor Drinil or Tor Anlek, and then having perhaps like really low faction relations with Illyrian to start with. And then finally, I think, you know, there's nobody who starts over here near Albion. You know, Everest is down here, but in the northeastern section of the map, I mean, there's Kothik, there's a couple Norskin factions, but there's a ton of space here. I mean, you could add new regions, you could replace one of these settlements with a Wood Elf settlement. You know, maybe the Wood Elves go to Albion. Again, I don't know if there's any real reason for them to start there, but it might make for an interesting starting location since nobody else is over there. And then, you know, if you want, you can go fight High Elves, or you can fight Norskins and make your way west to fight the Dark Elves. So that would be an interesting idea as well. But let's move on to the Mortal Empires map. So out here on the Mortal Empires map, this is where I think maybe a northwestern start could make a bit more sense. It would add some faction diversity to the area, and there's a fair bit of room, mostly I think kind of to the north here a bit. That a Wood Elf faction could start, especially if we do consider adding a region or two, or even maybe over here near Claircarand. Although Rictus does start like right here, I think. So this is, you know, it's an option. I don't know if it's the best option necessarily. I think there's a much better chance that in this case a new Wood Elf faction does actually start in Orion's camp, because there is a ton of space down here. Literally, and, you know, just in the sense of being able to fight, you know, minor factions to take territory, if that's what you want to do. You know, there's dwarfs over here. There's a lot of undead, which would be interesting. Tomb Kings, of course. Some Empire. So it could be a really fun place to start your campaign. On top of that, being that you have the Underway stance, or an Underway stance analog, you could move over this way as well. Just hop right over the mountains, no sweat. So, yeah, there's a lot of potential for this area. I really think that on the Mortal Empires map, somebody's going to start here. Now, it's possible that rather than the new Vortex map lord starting down here, that maybe they start somewhere else and an existing Wood Elf lord moves down here. Because remember, we've got two lords in Athelloren already. We've got Orion down here, and we've got Durthu over here. Now, I think that it's certainly likely that Athelloren itself gets a little bit of an overhaul and maybe gets a new region or two added to it. But I don't think that there's going to be another legendary lord starting here. There's too many lords all right next to each other from the same race. It seems kind of boring to me. So I think a possibility is like, I mean, certainly I think Ariel if she's not the Vortex Lord, she's going to be the bonus Lord. Because she's too important a character to leave out. And, given all the hoops you have to jump through to get her, I guess that would sort of be warranted for her status as an important character more than another, sort of no-name Lord might be. So yeah, if she maybe started in Kingsglade instead of Orion, and then Orion could move down to Orion's camp or somewhere else on like a quote-unquote wild hunt or something like that, and then, Durthu probably would stay in the same spot. But then we still have another Lord that we have to put somewhere, because that's only, Orion's camp to an Athelorn. We got to put somebody somewhere else. Now there is Lorelorn Forest up here. It's another Wood Elf owned area, and I think it's a sensible spot. Although it would start right next to good old Toddy whenever he gets added to the game as a playable character. I'm sure it'll happen someday. And so from here, you can fight the Empire and all that good stuff, and Norska if you really want to. But I'm not sure if they'll do that. They may add another region somewhere else. Maybe more toward like Kislev area, or like down here near vampire counts and dwarfs and stuff. Or down by the moot. I don't know. It might be better to have Wood Elves down there somewhere. There's also a bit of space out here near like Eschen and Imrich, where, we could add some new regions of some kind. Or like over here by Mount Silverspear, etc. So I don't know, there's a few different options, but Lorelorn does seem like a good choice. I think there's also another forest out in like Bretonia somewhere, but that's awfully close to Athelorn to begin with, so I don't know, I'll be surprised if we see any Wood Elves pop up out here. I think it'd be a lot more interesting for them to be, like Lorelorn area, somewhere around there, or way down in the south. I think we're gonna get somebody down in the south. So as far as like a new starting location, I guess over there, or maybe even like up here. What's this forest? I have no idea. Out in Troll Country, maybe that would be an interesting starting spot. But anyway, that's my speculation for the new legendary lords and their start locations. I think that either way, it's going to be interesting. I'm really mostly curious to see how the Wood Elves are going to get reworked, because the Emperor mechanic, I don't like it. I don't like having to keep areas occupied with settlement types that are obviously meant to be expendable. And I don't like being forced into military alliances just to get Amber and to like upgrade the Oak of Ages. Mechanically, as far as the rework goes, I think that, well, let me jump into a Wood Elf game. Alright, so yeah, like, mechanically speaking, Amber is not very fun, in my opinion. So I expect that to probably go away. Maybe it turns into, well, it goes away in its current form. Maybe it turns into something like the scrap mechanic that the orcs have. One of the things that you might be able to spend that Amber on would be, instead of gear, spites, which could either be unit specific or maybe like army/lord specific. These would be like special abilities either on the unit or character itself, or like an army global ability that could be used, once or twice per battle. So that might be an interesting little extra thing. If we're going to talk about new units, I think we'll probably see variants of Dryads, because they used to be able to shapeshift in combat. But I think we'll see them, instead of shapeshifting in combat, we'll see them split out into different Dryad types, where some are maybe better melee defense, some are better melee attack, or armor piercing, that kind of thing. I think we will maybe see, I've heard about Zotes, which kind of look like lizard man dragon ogres almost, but they have like some winds of magic ability, so they'll probably have like a bound dispel of some kind. Aside from that, I'm not sure. I think the new hero is probably going to be a Shadow Dancer, which is a a hero version of a war dancer. Probably will be like an anti-infantry character of some kind, if I had to guess. I'm just trying to find where the war dancers actually are on this tree. There we go. Yeah. So that'll probably be the new hero. It could be a Glade Captain as well, but that's, I don't know, it's kind of boring. I guess it would be like a little bit more tanky than a ward or than a Shadow Dancer might be. But you know, we'll see. As far as other, you know, units, I'm not sure. We'll probably see a Lord version of the Spell Singers called, I think they're called Spell Weavers. That seems extremely likely. And the Wood Elves certainly do need another Lord type, although the Caster Lords, I don't really tend to favor them all that much, personally. Aside from that, mechanically speaking, yeah, I don't know. I think we'll still be trying to upgrade the Oak of Ages in one fashion or another. Perhaps still with Amber or some other similar mechanic. But I do think that maybe we'll have the added desire to maybe heal the world roots to some extent. So that could be an interesting added bonus. So maybe we have to either you know, take certain settlements and build things there, or maybe we have like a sort of like the Vampirates mechanic where they can build you know, vampire like I don't know, what do you call them? little vampire hideouts or whatever in certain cities. Maybe the Wood Elves get an ability to make like groves and stuff in certain cities, and that's one of your campaign victory goals or something like that. I don't know. But I am interested to see what people think about this. I assume that a more formal and detailed announcement is not that far away, but it is fun to speculate. So if you have any ideas as to, you know, who the new lords for the Wood Elves might be and what their mechanics might look like, certainly let me know, because I'll be browsing the comments and the subreddit, the Total War subreddit as well, just checking up on what people think about this, because I'm really interested in it. Ah, crap. As soon as I finished this video and was just browsing around, reading other people's thoughts on the entire Wood Elf update, somebody had brought my attention to this. If you've collected all the content, you'll also get a bonus of Legendary Lord with all the trimmings. We can't wait to introduce you to her. Now, I picked up on the her part, but what I sort of ignored was all the trimmings. And what do you trim? You trim trees, hedges, bushes, etc. This makes me think that the bonus lord might actually be Dryka. Yeah, interesting stuff. And that might point to a spot in Lorelorn Forest. I think that there is a landmark there of some kind for the Wood Elves. I'm not exactly sure what it does. I don't really know much about Lorelorn Forest in the first place. But it would be interesting, I guess, to have a character who really just wants to murder the Empire. And then Dryka, I guess, would have that limited roster. And then maybe the way it would work for Ariel is, instead of having a limited roster all the time, maybe if you only buy the Lord Pack with Ariel in it, you get just the basic Wood Elf roster. And then if you own the original Wood Elf DLC as well, you get the entire roster, with, I guess all the variants and the new hero and all that kind of stuff as well. Because I definitely think that this whole Marathi beef thing has legs as far as what the Vortex campaign is going to be about for the Wood Elves. And if Ariel isn't the bonus lord, I feel like she's got to be the headlining lord for the entire Lord Pack, with whoever the other core Warhammer 2 lord is going to be. Throt is a popular opinion for that, so I guess you could call this DLC pack the Mage, Queen, and the Unclean. That's what I'm going with at least. But yeah, anyway, interesting stuff. I'm sure there'll be more to see and speculate on in the future, but I just wanted to add this in here at the end because I picked it up and I thought it was worth mentioning. If you made it this far in the video, do feel free to subscribe to the channel. I do play Total War campaigns from time to time, and I'll certainly play the Wood Elves when they come out. I don't really make videos like this very often, but I do some other kinds of stuff you may be interested in, so feel free to check out the channel and see if there's anything else you like. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.